just do that much of it. That would be fun. Hello, this is John from My First Ukulele. Today I'm going to show you how to memorize the ukulele fretboard. This is not something that's going to happen overnight, but something that you can learn over time. It could be a really long time, but practice will surely pay off as you work on this. Especially daily. If you work on your ukulele daily, it will really help you get to know this and just have some more fluency on the ukulele itself. So let me ask you this question first. How many C's are there on a ukulele? I'll give you a hint. There are more C's than there are any other note on the ukulele. So go ahead and take a second and see if you can figure that out. All right, well, one of them is one of the open strings, right? So that's going to be our C string, right? G, C, E, A. And usually on a ukulele, even if you have a soprano, if you go up to the octave, you're going to have another C up there, right? So this is a low C down here, and then this is a octave C up here. My octave actually is a little bit off. It sounds a little flat, so I end up having to bend it a little bit to get it in tune. So far, that is 2 C's. All right, but we only really have one low C on a ukulele, unless you have a low G string on your ukulele. So, all right, well, let's see if we can find all of them, okay? So I've got a low C here. You know that when you make a C chord, that you've got one up here as well, right? So this is fret 3, right? When we make a C chord, that is your C note there. All right, so we are up to 3 now. See if you can find any more. All right. So I've got another one here at fret 5 on the G string. Same C that you have on your high string, the A string. Right? If you go over to fret 8 on the E string, you're also going to have a C there. Same C that you have here, here, and here. All right, so that's at least 3 of the same sounding C's that we had from there. We already got the octave C from original one, right? Now, yours might just end there. That might be the only C that you have. If you have a soprano ukulele, that might be as many as you get. There are 2 more, however, if you have a tenor ukulele, and they're octave higher, right? Even higher than the last one we had. My ukulele needs to be bent so you can be in tune. So all in all, on a tenor ukulele, there are 7 C's. Let's go through them one more time. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, so there's 1 low one. There are 4 medium sounding ones, and then 2 high octave ones. 2 octaves higher than the low C that we have. And I believe there's only 5 on a soprano ukulele, so hope that helps you to find that out. All right, so what I would do, and if you can tell, I already marked up my ukulele here so you can see it, but you can use stickers for this, and I just used some tape that I had around. I just cut it with a scalpel into squares, and I just put it all over the ukulele just to see where all of the C notes are. All right, that's something really good to have, and you can kind of see the relationship of the notes and where they go on there. So the only one that I don't have labeled is my C string. You can put that at the very top of your neck if you need to, but if you can remember G, C, E, A, or goats can eat anything, that's pretty easy to remember the open strings that you have there, right? All right, so I'm going to give you some more tips today. There aren't going to be very many musical things to play today, except for I'm going to give you a melody to learn on the ukulele. We'll do that in a little bit. The second thing that I would do on your ukulele after you have found all your C's is learn all the frets, the first 3 frets of your ukulele. I mean, you probably thought I was going to say, I want you to learn all the notes on all the frets of your ukulele. That would be way too many notes to memorize at first. And we are down here about 80% of the time when we play ukulele, unless you're a virtuoso and you're going up and down constantly, right? So yeah, learning the first 3 frets would be really good to do, and more specifically, the string 1, 2, and 3. Because the ukulele is reiterant, which means that this G is higher then the next note down. Doing scales with it can work, but I would just mainly start on the low C and work your way up from there. So your C scale would be this open C, then you'd have your D here on the 2nd fret, then we'd go to the open E, then we have F, we have G, we have A, and we have B, and then C, right? So getting to know those especially would be very, very useful. You can kind of fill in the gaps as you go after that. So if our first note was C, and then we had a D, well, this is D flat because it's going down, and then I could do D sharp on the fret 3, or I can call it E flat. So you can start filling in the gaps after you know at least the notes of the C scale as you go there. So that's my recommendation for the next step. The step 2 is getting to learn all the notes on the frets and see if you can do it pretty quickly, at least on the first 3 frets. All right, my next recommendation to you, this is step 3, is when you play a chord, get to know the 3 notes that make up that chord. And sometimes there's more, but the basic chords that you know on ukulele are probably C, you probably know an F, you probably know an A, you probably know a G, and you probably know a D, right? So besides just being able to strum those, do you know what they're made of? And do you know the notes that make up those chords? Let's start with the most common chord, which is C chord on ukulele, right? What is that made of? Well, we know 2 of the notes at least, right? This note down here is C, and we know this note is C, the high C. So that's 2 of the notes out of that chord. I would memorize that. The next thing that is in that chord, this should be pretty easy too. We have a G in there, and we also have an E in there, right? So I've gone over some things before about how chords are built, but they're generally built with the root, which is like the lowest note of that chord. In this case, it's C. We have a 3rd, C, D, E. That's here. We have a 5th, C, D, E, F, G. It's right here. And then we have the octave sometimes, and that's the high C, right? So they're not in order. They're not in root, 3rd, 5th, octave, at least in this chord. But that's what's made of, right? G, C, E, C. That one's an easier to remember because you can remember the open strings of ukulele. You just replace A with C. All right, and then you can do that for the other 4 chords that I mentioned. That would be A, G, F, and D. Now, if you can do that and you can start memorizing where those roots, 3rds, and their 5ths are, you can figure out, especially when you move your chords around, you'll be able to figure out your notes very quickly. It will take time. Okay. The next easiest one to go over would probably be the A, and let's do that now. So make an A chord from the ceiling to the floor. That's 2, 1, 0, 0. And this one's actually the easiest to remember the order of them. So this is an A, this is C sharp, this is E, and that's A. So root, 3rd, 5th, octave, except that our root is the same as the octave because I have a high G, right? Ukulele. So that one's a good one to memorize, right? So you always know that if you have this shape, these 2 notes are always going to be major 3rds from each other, no matter where you are on the neck, right? Okay, and you can do the same thing with a G chord and an F chord and a D chord, right? So get to know those notes, and then you can figure out from there, if you were to move those around a little bit, you could kind of figure out the relationship of those notes. Very, very important. All right, the next step I have for you, which would be step 4, is to learn a simple melody over the neck on those C notes at first, right? So I'll give you kind of a head start here. Let's do it on the A string first. You're going to begin on fret 7, and we're going to play the song Mary Had a Little Lamb, at least the beginning of it. So this is 7, 5, 3. That's kind of the beginning of the song. So Mary had a little lamb. You could just do that much of it. That would be fun. So you know this is an E, this is a D, and that's a C, right? So at least getting to know those 3 notes. right? So that's one of them. You could do it in the next space here on the G string. We're just going to do the same thing. So this must be an E, right? So that's another spot. We have another one here. This would be the second string. I'm going to start you on fret 12, which is the octave of an E. And we're going to just play it on this one string. So here's 12. This is 12, 10, 8, 10, 12, 12, 12. Right? And you can do that on all of the strings that you have. Maybe you run out of space when you go up top here. I usually don't use these notes unless it's for special effect anyway. So those are where I would probably do those notes mostly. The next step after that is to understand the relationship of the strings to each other. So instead of playing all the notes on one string, for instance, right, you could go up to the next string above that, so the higher string above it. So if you're on the C string, maybe you'll go up to the E string for the high note instead. So I'm going to start up here around fret 12. So this note is an E. You have to find this. Now you have to be hearing it. So I've got fret 12 on string 2, 14 on string 3, and then 12 on the string 3. So, right? You can do the same to any other dot on this ukulele. So it takes a really long time to kind of find all of those and where they're at. And then not only that, you need to commit it to memory. So this is a tall order to learn all the notes on the ukulele neck. But remember, this can be a lifetime instrument. You can play this instrument the rest of your life. And, you know, as long as you're learning new things and you're having fun, that's really what it's all about. All right, so I showed you all the stickers that I have on this ukulele. If you do this and you practice for about a month, you'll probably get to remember where all those C's are. You might want to quiz yourself and see if you can find all of them. The following month, maybe you want to change the sticker position. You want to put them maybe on, I wouldn't put them on D's, but I would put them on either F or G notes. And what that does is it helps you fill in the gaps. You know, if you go to G, then that's going to feel a little bit different than just going to D. You kind of know where your D's are, you know, by just finding these C stickers anyway, right? D is just going to be 2 steps higher than the C was. You want it to be far enough away that you're learning some new information. Eventually, when you start changing those stickers over, your brain is going to fill in all the gaps of where those notes are. And you won't even have to count from the bottom of the instrument to the very top of the instrument. You're just going to be able to know it by doing that. And I'm actually in the process of doing that still. It'll take me a second. I can figure out where I'm at, but I would love to just play and just be like, I know this is a B, bam, boom, just go, right? So this is still a project that I'm working on ukulele and guitar. But I hope you found this useful today. And if you like these videos, hit like and subscribe to my First Ukulele channel. And you can catch many more great ukulele videos, tutorials, and song tutorials on YouTube. So I've been John with My First Ukulele. I hope you have a great day and happy strumming. Bye-bye.